And welcome to the Draft Indy podcast. And Garrett just killed a bug.
I did.
So here
Right
we
there.
are, episode 16. I can't believe it. Which is kind of crazy, really. Like, think about that. We've done this 16 times. I said that. That kind of blew my mind when I said it when we did it 10 times. But here we are. We'll keep talking, and people keep listening. So we'll just keep talking, I suppose. So next week is the combine. I guess I'll just start out and we've got Jake Arthur lined up from Pro Football Spot to come talk to us next week. We're going to talk about the combine, but this week we're going to talk about some offensive line stuff because I'm writing an article about Taylor Decker. It's what you guys voted for, actually, now that I think about it. You guys voted for center talk, so we'll just dedicate some time to the offensive line.
Which I was completely shocked by.
Say what?
I didn't expect center to get the vote, but...
Well, I mean, it was between center and safety, and if you ask the common person what do they need more, offensive line or safety, I would guess the majority answer was center, so there's that. But safety, it was actually pretty close. It was like 65-40 something, so it's or 35 or something like that. But so it wasn't too skewed one way or another. But so let's talk about. I guess we can just jump right in and start talking about who we got on the offensive line now. Costanzo, down year, I suppose. He's for me, anyways. Just watching him, he wasn't nearly as I'm trying to think of the word. I don't know, impactful as he was in the years past, in my opinion. He kind of got beat a little more than he did in the years past. His run blocking wasn't nearly as good, and to 2015 and 2013, 2014, I really enjoyed watching Costanzo run block. He was probably the best Colts lineman at getting to the second level and dominating, honestly, at that level. He would hit people with intent, and he knew where he was going, which I always appreciated. And this year, he can move. He's very athletic. They're all very athletic, honestly. Well, Mewhort, kind of. But anyways, so Costanzo's there at left tackle. He just signed a long-term deal. There's not really any reason to see him being replaced. In my opinion.
I'm sorry, before we go on, we do have some pretty good athletes on this O-line, or at least on the roster at O-line.
Right.
We've got, going left to right, we got Costanzo, Mewhort's, wow, there's a lot of bugs in this room. Okay, never mind. Then we got, what's the center's name?
Harrison,
yeah. He's really strong. We all know that, and the gifts. And then we got right guard, not very athletic.
Thornton is actually
pretty strong.
He's actually pretty athletic. It just doesn't show up in the game. I mean, his functional strength is low. He's quick and strong, but his functional strength is low, if that makes sense. And then Good and Reed's
big.
Yeah, Good's a big guy, and he moves really well. I really like his footwork. We'll get into that in just a second. But, I mean, even Joe Wright's, pretty sure it's Wright's. And, I mean, Joe Wright's, we were just talking about, former tight end. He's 6'7", which might surprise some people. Just thinking about it. He's 6'7", 320, came into the NFL at 6'7", 260. So he's put on, 45, 60 pounds. It being in the NFL, moving from tight end to tackle. And, I mean, he had a pretty good year, too. So, I mean, honestly, on the bookend side, like, when you really look at it, Costanzo's there. No one really, he's not being challenged. He's just got a really long, big contract. He's not going anywhere. On the other side, we've got a mystery between Joe Wrights and Denzel Good. So, Good had played 4 games last year. We've got a 4-game sample from him. He played very well, in my opinion, in those 4 games. Definitely worth. They probably should have just played him, honestly, towards the end of the season, just to see what else they had. But they kept trying to win for some reason. And how cold is it there?
It was -30 this weekend.
Oh my gosh.
Garrett, I like how you have the option to keep your windows open.
Yeah, I just had to close them to get the bugs out of here, or at least keep more from coming in. Yeah, it's nice. About 50 degrees out right now. Pretty good.
Yeah, it's actually been about 50 or two in the end of the day.
Nope.
But
Wind chill
negative,
got to -30 this weekend.
yeah, man, that's cold and awful.
Negative? I didn't know that could happen.
Oh yeah, dude.
There's negative temperatures. This is
Yeah, dude. Freezes your snot, like to your face, like for real. It's messed up.
That sounds awful.
It is, dude. It really sucks. Like you don't even understand being from California and the West Coast, what that's really like. I don't even really know what it's like
You don't
because
know
I'm
what
not.
snow football is like. Snow football is amazing.
I suppose that's true. It's fun. But back to where we were. Denzel Good. But anyways, Denzel Good, I think, earned playing time last year. We've got 5 preseason games, so we're in the Hall of Fame game this year, which is cool. So he might get.
I thought the Hall of Fame game was just the first preseason game.
No, there's 5.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll have 5 preseason games. Green Bay Packers and then whoever else, and then we'll play the Bengals in preseason week 4. Because we always do. And, Garrett's back.
I don't know why that keeps happening.
All right. It doesn't matter. We were just talking about how we've got 5 preseason games this year. So we'll get to see some extended looks from some of those younger guys. Also, which will be cool because there are some, I liked watching him at camp. Kid O'Brien from Ball State. You guys probably don't even remember that name, but he was on the practice squad, I think, all year long. I'd like to see him in some extended looks because he didn't really get much time in the preseason because I think he wasn't even really on the roster during preseason. He was there at camp for some, and then at the end of preseason they put him on the practice squad. But anyways, I'd like to see. I thought he moved pretty well. I'd be interested to see more extended play time from him and Good. And then of course Wright's, being athletic, gaining 60 pounds. He played well, honestly. He gets beat by speed inside and power inside. That's where he really struggles is with inside counters.
When playing tackle.
When playing tackle, yes, when playing tackle. So and on the outside too. But I mean for this year, honestly, he played okay. I think
ranking.
I'm trying to remember. I think for the season he was maybe the second highest rated right tackle. His rating went down when he had to play left tackle. I think Costanzo was out for a game or so, and then Costanzo was out for some extended time, which is why Good had to come in and Wrights had to move to left tackle. I think. I can't really remember. The season was a blur of sadness, and
I've wiped it from my memory.
Yeah,
as Kyle said, 2015 didn't happen.
No, man, it really kind of didn't, man. It was just a bad season overall, which is crazy because, we give people a lot of crap, whatever. We went 8-8. That's kind of honestly impressive with how shitty the season was. I mean, we had really big expectations, obviously, which is why it was a letdown. But still, 8-8 with all the circumstances, 5 quarterbacks, Andre Johnson, big, the Trent Cole, no pass rush. I don't know. I mean, we still do play garbage teams, so there is that. We do have a garbage division, and I don't know. But anyways,
even when we were winning, it was kind of sad.
Yeah, those last 2 games I just wanted them to lose to get better draft spot. It was just like, man, I'm watching every second of this game because I have to, because I want to.
The first time Hasselbeck started, it was like, well, he's a veteran guy, and he's had a good career. It'd be kind of cool to see him get to win in his last start if we assumed it would be his last start because we thought Andrew was coming back, and they won, and that was kind of fun because I think it was the Jaguars and. We got to make fun of Jaguars Twitter. They wanted to off themselves. And then after that, I was thinking, man, this isn't my quarterback. I don't want him here.
And the Jags scored 50 on the Colts.
Yeah. Man, that really happened.
That did happen. I saw it.
I mean, every time I'd get on the football forum that I go to, people would just post the score of that game. They wouldn't even say anything. I would post something, and then just 6 people would be 51-17 or whatever the score was. I mean, man, that one was kind of brutal. But it's okay. Next year, Andrew will be back, and he'll put some pain down. We hope. I mean, they haven't beat us in a while. Realistically, it'd been a while.
Where's their Patriots? That's the funny thing. Where's someone else's Patriots?
Yeah, that's true. We're the Titans Patriots too.
Yeah.
I mean, Colts beat the Super Bowl champions, so
we did.
That's true. We did.
It was like a legitimate game too. It wasn't fluky.
No, that was Luck was in that one too, right?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
That was the week he came back. The week he came back.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So I mean, next season we'll have to see. I think good off season, good free agents, good re-signing contracts. We'll see how it goes. If they wanted to, speaking of before we move on to guards, right tackle, if for some reason, which they probably do, I don't know why. Like I think that if you went into the season with Reitz and Good, it's not like the most optimal. It's not the most optimal thing, but you've got two guys who can probably produce at a pretty good level, and you can alternate them, do whatever you need to do to figure out who's better. But really, if they wanted to go all out, they're like, no, we don't like Good. We don't want Reitz playing, right tackle full time. I said it in my mock off season. Mitch Schwartz is available. He's premier right tackle. He's really, really good. And the importance of right tackle actually has kind of gone up in the past few years as you've seen pass rushers switch kind of to the other side. The right side blocks J.J. Watt. The right side blocks Von Miller. Those kind of players, the stronger, faster guys who were, getting stonewalled by these really athletic left tackles across the league, so they just started lining up on the other side and beating up on the right tackles.
Because it's easier to flip-flop your pass rushers across the line of different sides of the formation than it is to for an O-lineman.
Exactly.
That's your technique for an O-line.
Yeah, and the premise for many, many years, hey, we're joined by Brent Fettig.
Hey!
Did I pronounce your name right?
You did, actually. Yeah, it's Fattig. A lot of people don't want to say fat, but a lot of people want to try and say fatig or fatigue, because that's an actual English word, not fattig. But yeah, Fattig. Brent Fattig, that's me.
Hey, and we welcome you to the Draft Indy podcast for the first time. People who don't know, Brent has joined our team, and he's going to start. He's been updating, did for the All-Star games. Kind of the rumor talk has kind of dropped down, but on our page, he'll be there updating who the Colts have been visiting with, meeting with, rumor mill and everything like that. So we're going to be doing that and some occasional articles, and hopefully get him on the podcast from time to time. We were just talking about some, kind of funny because you were tweeting about it earlier, the free agency fix in the offensive line. And we were kind of talking about Mitch Schwartz, and we were talking about how the pass rushers the better pass rushers have moved towards that other side of the line where they're facing the right tackles more. Because conventional wisdom had always been put your slower road grader, run blocker guys on the right side and run that way. Run strong side, to the right or whatever, and just play off that. So these guys weren't really equipped for speed, and now you're getting the speed guys, the real strong guys moving to that side. And so your right tackle is becoming very important too. And if they decide that they don't like Reitz, whatever, and Good, they can do something like a Mitch Schwartz. He might not be necessarily cheap, but he's got experience in Chud's system. He played 1 year there with him. He's a really good fit for the zone type scheme that Chud will run. And everything I've heard from him, he's just an all around. You don't really hear any character concerns about him. His brother's been in the league for years. Well renowned. Jeff Schwartz. There's not really. It's one of those free agency signings. Everyone's like, oh, another Browns free agent. This is actually one of the good Browns free agents.
How many have we gotten?
DeQuell Jackson.
Alex Mack.
Yeah, well, I've heard people say let's get Alex Mack, but he's still under contract and has to. I think he gets to decide though.
I know, but then I'm talking about it. I think it was a couple years ago.
Yeah, it was. Well, I think it was last year.
Oh, last year.
Didn't they franchise him, or were they going to, or?
It was a restricted tag, if I remember correctly, and then Jacksonville made an offer, which basically just raised the dollar signs for Mack to then sign a long-term deal. In
Jacksonville was willing to shell out like $10 million to anyone who was a free agent that offseason.
Why not?
Yeah, well, actually, and the interesting thing about that contract is the reason that the Jaguars did it the way that they did was because they signed that contract, and how that restricted tag works is the other team makes an offer, and the other team gets to match that offer. So if Mac and the Jaguars made a deal, then the Browns could just say, hey, we'll match that, and he's got to go to the Browns no matter what. I'm not explaining that to you guys. I'm trying to explain that to anyone who doesn't know what that means, who'd be listening. But anyways, and so they put that clause in his contract where he could decide to opt out after 2 years or whatever. And it's the Browns, so obviously he's going to opt out. So we'll see how it goes. Well, I mean, he's got Hugh now, so maybe not. Who knows? We'll see. But anyways, let's move on to our guards. You all right there, Brian?
Yeah.
Okay. You're really echoing now.
My headphones broke, so I didn't really want to not wear my headphones, but.
Okay.
Is it that bad?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's real bad.
Very bad.
All right, mute me.
Okay, gotcha.
As usual.
Yep. Anyways, so let's talk about the guards. Jack Mewhort, second round pick. And actually, that was a really good draft class overall, and that was the one where we didn't have Trent Richardson. So our first pick is Jack Mewhort. Immediately announced him as a guard. You can go back and check my vault me's or whatever. I said Jack Mewhort would be a really good player. He has been. I'm very excited to have him on the left side of the line. He's like we were saying earlier, he's not so athletic as, say, Costanzo. He's a very powerful player. No, I don't really have any concerns with him.
He's got a good chemistry with Costanzo too.
Yeah, they're I think they're like best buds now, obviously.
Mewhort's a pretty cool guy. They both are, from what I've seen.
So our offensive line actually seems pretty chill. Pretty much highlighted by the fact that they did the body issue of Sports Illustrated last year, if you remember that.
Rest in peace, Todd Hermans.
Right. Yeah, thank God. So, left guard I feel like is solidified. So you get to the center spot and the right guard spot, and they're not solidified in my opinion. Honestly, every mock draft we've been getting for the past few weeks, months even, has been
years.
Offensive tackle. You can look at it. We've said it a bunch of times before. Jack Conklin. You're going to see Jack Conklin. You're going to see his name over and over and over and over and over. And I'll eventually write a piece on him. I'm doing a series called Big Boys, talking about the 3 tackles from the Big Ten, starting with Taylor Decker, and then the others will come out sooner or later.
Wait, who's the other one besides Conklin?
Jason Spriggs.
Oh, from Indiana. Yeah.
Yeah. Who's actually very athletic. Had a good Senior Bowl week, but I'll save that for later. So I don't know. Let's start with center. Jonathan Harrison is strong as a mule, as an ox. He's very athletic, and he's a quick mover. He's just technically not very good, and I'm not going to say this in the nicest way possible. I'll start here. Centers are usually the smartest people on the offensive line. Jonathan Harrison is not, and I'm trying to say that in the nicest way possible. Jonathan Harrison. We've seen the mental mistakes. The high snaps, the missed snaps, whatever. He was undrafted. He's started a bunch of games. Good find, in my opinion. You can avoid the mental miscues when you see a vine of him tossing J.J. Watt like a sack of potatoes. So, that's always cool to me. But anyways, he's not necessarily. It can be really upgraded. He was okay last year. This year was not the same story. He got beat by speed. He got beat by power. If you overwhelmed him, he wasn't really quite sure where to go. Honestly, he just didn't really have a grasp of kind of the playbook almost, in my opinion, and you could really tell a lot of pressure came from him, and also from the right guard, who we started out with was Lance Lewis, guys. So, man,
That can't be right.
Or Todd Harriman's, right?
Yeah.
And then Lance Lewis. And then, Lance Lewis was on the left side. Anyways, we had 2 garbage bins playing guard at one point.
Turnstile.
I've posted pictures before of Todd Harriman's or Lance Lewis and with a picture of a dumpster and said, "This is me." But that's my just subtle opinion on how I feel about their playing. But Todd Harriman's. Well, I don't even remember the last game he played. Week 3 maybe. Awful, just awful, really bad.
And then rotted on the roster for like 10 weeks for no good reason.
Yeah, I don't know why he was on the roster for so long. And Lance Lewis too, honestly. Like they were just there, and if anyone went down, it would have gotten worse than it was. But Thornton came in. Thornton's been mediocre, I think his whole year. And like again, I mean he's a strong athletic guy, but he just doesn't. In my opinion, doesn't have the functional strength to play guard. Like he can be athletic and he can move and all that kind of stuff, but I just don't think that he uses his core and his trunk the way that a guard should. And I say that because you see him getting bent a lot, like where his legs are facing one way and his arms and torso are turning the other way, and that's not really good technique for anything, really, unless you're a pass rusher and you're bending that way to get through a line. Anyways, I don't know. Thornton he's not a long-term solution. It's a contract.
He's a backup.
He's a backup. He's a long-term backup.
You got a lot of backup. Like Jonathan Harrison would be a fine backup. Hugh Thornton would be a fine backup. I think Denzel Good, depending on his upside, right now it's just a backup. So just those roles that need to be filled right now. And if those roles can be filled with solid quality starting caliber players, then Colts have a really good offensive line moving forward.
No, I agree. And because even last year there was more depth than the year before on the offensive line, in my opinion. The depth has slowly been building there, and yes, you can everyone said lack of capital in offensive line. It's not true. I think Kyle Rodriguez proved that in a few tweets or an article that he wrote, saying, hey, look, he's actually invested on the O-line really heavily. 2nd round pick, a 3rd round pick, a 4th round pick, 2 7th. And financially.
Look at how much we're paying our tackles the last couple of years.
It's been ridiculous because we paid Sherrillis way too much money.
And Costanzo's got a really nice contract now.
Yeah, and honestly, his contract, like I said, past 2 years he played really well. This year was kind of a down year for him. That's really good money for a left tackle in this NFL. And
but it's still a big contract, is what I mean.
Yeah, no, it is a big. Yeah, I mean it is a big contract, and Sherrillis had a big contract. And I mean we brought in Donald Thomas, Lance Lewis, Todd Harriman's. It's not like Grigson has been neglecting the position. There's been slowly building depth, but he's thrown a lot of bodies at it that just happen to be decrepit and old and slow and terrible. It's okay. I mean, it happens. And
honestly, that's most linemen in the NFL is terrible.
Yeah,
It's hard to find good bodies to throw at an offensive line.
It really is.
And really, you could make the argument that had Donald Thomas stayed healthy, we might not be having the same conversation. Not that he's an all-star, guard or anything, but that one position having a solid starter for a stretch of time would have changed the whole dialogue.
Yeah, I mean, because he could have played either left guard or right guard, no problem. I mean,
when did we sign him? Was it 2012, 2013?
Yeah, it's the year with Landry that year.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
him and Sherrillis were signed right around the same time, and it seemed like the right side of the offensive line was locked up for at least 2 years. I know Thomas had a 2-year deal. Can't remember how many Sherrillis had.
They both had 4. Or Thomas had 4 and Sherrillis had 5.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought it was a lot shorter than that.
And then, I mean, he drafted, and then in that same year, he drafts Hugh Thornton and Khaled Holmes. So I mean, he tried. He tried. I mean, when you watch the tape of Khaled Holmes from college, what I see is Marcus Martin tape. What I see is Max Tuerk tape, who's the center coming out in this draft. They have a really friendly center blocking scheme where he looks really good on pulling and being athletic in space.
Khaled Holmes, was he drafted as a senior?
Yes.
Because I remember people saying his junior year tape was really good, and then like, he fell off his senior year. So people were wondering what version of him the Colts would be getting after drafting him.
And when he came into the league, he did not do well in the bench press. He did not test well at all, and you wondered, is this a function? Is he strong? So I always thought he's very smart. He's a very heady guy. Like, he's a very smart center, like what you want to see.
Everyone said that in his college days. That his teammates would always talk about how smart he was. Coaches.
Yeah, I mean, very, very smart, intelligent guy. I mean, that's what you read consistently, and I've not seen anything contrary to that, going on. Yeah, we're getting to the prospects now because we're talking about centers. But anyways, but he was, I don't know. They threw capital at it. Here we are now. We need probably a center and a right guard more than anything else. So we're going to talk about centers. We got two lined up that we're going to talk about right now. And probably the two best ones. I don't think there's really, honestly, any contest. And maybe the combine might separate. I don't know. But we're going to talk about Ryan Kelly from Alabama and Nick Martin from Notre Dame. And who do you guys want to start with?
We'll start with Nick Martin.
All right.
I didn't watch Kelly, so I watched Martin.
Okay. So tell me.
I'm the exact opposite, so I'll stay quiet on Martin and then chime in with Kelly.
All right. Talk to me about Martin, Brian.
Obviously Nick Martin. He's brother of Zach, right?
Yep.
He's big. I didn't get his measurements, but he's like
6'4",
big.
296.
Like, he's got to be at least 320, maybe.
Yes. Or no. He's right at 300.
Really, he looks bigger on film, and he's.
Are you looking at his rivals' measurements? Like, where's that from?
Me?
Yeah,
Dude, I've been studying these guys. I've been studying all these offensive linemen.
And
I remember lots of pointless facts.
Okay, but I'm just wondering, like, when was his weight taken?
Oh, I don't know. I'm looking. When I look at weights, I look at them on the NFL Draft Scout website. And those guys get it from other sources, and sometimes those sources are from years ago. I mean, that could be.
NFL Draft Scout, in my experience, has been the most consistent because they'll automatically update anybody that goes to the All-Star games and stuff that. But,
really? Okay. Yeah.
They do it like the Senior Bowl weigh-in where it's like 6.046 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I think it seems pretty consistent because anybody, like, you go to NFL.com and that outside backer's 10 pounds heavier, but on NFL Draft Scout they're 232 instead of 248. But
anyways, with Martin, he's really strong, just like a strong player. He's thick. He anchors really well as a center, and another guy that I watch that we may talk about, Jack Allen from Michigan State. They're almost the exact opposite player. Jack Allen's he's 6'2", he's under 300. He's a
really short arms.
Yeah, he's pulling. He's great at second level, and so Martin, on the other hand, anchors very well. Like when he hits you, he has trouble kind of engaging. Like if he stays engaged on his block, then he'll win, but that's where he struggles. But just overall, he's really strong, and he's better in the. I think he's probably better in the run game and the pass game, but I think he's kind of equal with both. Like neither is really stands out as a weakness compared to one of his strengths.
Yeah, I really like Nick Martin on the second level. Like he seems like he's going to test really well at the combine. Which is next week. I'm very excited to see how some of the stuff comes out. So I haven't watched any skill position players yet. I usually wait for the combine because I'm weird. But anyways,
I wouldn't touch him until round 3.
You wouldn't take Nick Martin until round 3?
Yeah.
See,
he's not my top center right now.
Well, I mean, this is supposed to be a deep center class, so would that been your round grade like last year, or
just? I guess that's a good point, but I mean, talking out of the I haven't watched Kelly, but I like Jack Allen a lot better than I like Martin. I don't know, a little slow. Maybe it's just my personal preference.
I mean, rankings are everyone's subjective, but I have a Kelly, Martin, Allen, and then the other guys underneath The Bohm, the Evan Bohm, those guys, they all have a lot of glaring. They have some glaring strengths and glaring weaknesses. For me, Nick Martin, like to steal a Josh Norris term, where Nick Martin wins is using. I'm trying to think of the best way to. He uses really good technique, and he drives. Mm-hmm. He really drives people. I think he at the second level he drives people off their block, and pass protection. He pushes people out of the way, moves them completely as opposed to being moved back. I really like Martin, and
he doesn't lose. He may have like neutral plays, but he won't lose a matchup.
Yeah, I mean, he compared to Harrison, because that's where a lot of Colts, trying to give everyone a reference, because offensive line play is sometimes hard to evaluate. Giving a reference to Jonathan Harrison, you would see him sometimes trying to. He was always looking for someone to hit, which is good. You always want to see that. He wasn't necessarily always the quickest to aware. He wasn't always the quickest to arrive at the best decision on which way to block, and that would let people get around him. I don't see that with Martin. I see Martin is very aware. He has very good awareness, and that at the center position, that's like the most important thing, and intelligence. And I think Nick Martin definitely has both. And he's also really strong. He's not as strong as Harrison. Like I said, Harrison is a strong dude. But Martin uses his strength more effectively that he has, I suppose. And I really like Martin. I'd be cool with Martin in the second, and I'd actually be cool. I mean, I'm not going to say I'm cool with him in the first. If he was our second round pick, I'd be really happy. We'd have a really good long-term center. Now in the first round, I know we'll switch it up because I don't think Garrett. Who did you watch? Did you watch either of these guys?
I watched a couple games of Kelly, and I also remembered some of his stuff while I was watching Alabama games. And I actually have to go in a minute.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, I thought. Did we say Martin's size, but not Kelly's? How big is Kelly?
They're the same size.
Oh, they're the same size. I thought that Kelly actually looked bigger than that, but I guess I was wrong.
I feel like Kelly looks longer to me, especially in the arms.
Yeah, his arms are probably longer. I think Nick Martin did not have very long arms when they measured him.
That's valuable.
Which is valuable. I mean, they normally put the shorter arm guys at center, anyways.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, compared to tackle or.
Right. But I mean, Kelly looks bigger. He's more menacing, I think, out there. I'd rather take a block from Martin than Kelly. But then again, I really like Kelly. If Kelly was pick at 18, I'm not going to be thrilled, but I'm not going to be like, oh my God, burn.
Well,
burn Grigson.
Burn him.
I think once we talked about how picking O-line high isn't always great because it's just part of one unit, like a fifth of a unit. Right. And it's the performance of that unit that matters more than any individual performance. Any individual performance is only going to help your team so much compared to other positions like pass rusher or running back or receiver or something. But we have dealt with so much A-gap pressure over the last few years, just since Luck has been here. And honestly, if anything has been keeping him from developing or getting in his head over that time, it's been that pressure up the middle. That's what really gets to him.
He started seeing ghosts.
That's what hurts quarterbacks mentally. That's what actually damages them. So if we think that he's the guy that can take that away or at least ameliorate it, yeah, he's totally worth that 18th pick.
No, yeah, you could tell right in the beginning, Luck was rushing throws when he was expecting pressure, and it wasn't there on some snaps. But you talk about quarterbacks seeing ghosts. That's what happened the first 2 games of the season with Luck, is he was just scarred by that up right in your face pressure.
Well, he doesn't have that guy. He's not trusting the guy who's giving him the ball at the beginning of each play. Since we had Satelli, then Harrison, and cycling through all these mediocre players, he just has had no real intellectual relationship with the most intellectual position on the O-line.
No, I agree. That's pretty. Yeah, and if you want to talk about intellectual players, we could talk about Ryan Kelly, because Ryan Kelly, he won the blocking award. I think it's the
Remington.
Yep, that'd be the one. He won that, which Barrett Jones won back in 2012.
Wasn't Barrett Jones the dude who shoved A.J. McCarron in that?
Yes.
Who shoved his own quarterback in the
Yes.
national championship game?
When they were beating Notre Dame by like 35 points.
Oh, that was beautiful.
It was so good.
I love Barrett Jones.
It was so good. Barrett Jones, not a very good NFL player, but anyways, Ryan Kelly is a lot better.
Alabama centers can't succeed in the NFL.
Yeah, just like running backs. I felt bad earlier today when I picked on Derrick Henry from one vine. You can always find one bad vine, right? You can always pick a really bad play out and vine it, be like, oh my god, this guy sucks. Whatever. It really looked like T. Rich. But anyways, we're not going to get on that because we're talking about Ryan Kelly, who's the best center in the draft. My opinion, he's okay. So I like Nick Martin.
Real quick, I got it. Sorry, I have to drop out. I'll see you
guys.
All right,
see you, buddy.
Bye.
Just to fill in the gaps there, we brought up the Remington. The Colts within the past couple seasons have had two of the past Remington Trophy winners on the team, and neither worked out for whatever it's worth. But A.Q. Shipley and Jake Kirkpatrick both won the Remington. So, take it for what it's worth.
Letting Shipley go was a huge mistake.
Yes, I fully agree with that statement. I don't think we would have had as much center problems as we've had, but that's long gone. He's on the Cardinals, and he's been pretty decent there, I think.
I don't think he was even starting a whole lot, but yeah, he's clearly a player that was consistent overall, and that's been the missing piece.
He was very consistent, and I really feel like everyone in the locker room really liked him. I really felt like he was a locker room guy, and he really got shafted by probably Gregson, from what we know of the center changes or whatever Pagano's camp was leaking, during the firing season. But anyways, getting to Ryan Kelly, I really like Nick Martin at the second level. Ryan Kelly is a beast at the second level. This dude moves, and I keep saying this. I said he moves with intent. That is such an important thing in offensive line blocking. You want to see them with a target. You want to see them with someone in mind to hit. If they're not really searching or looking, that's not really good O-line play. You want to see them aware and looking to hit someone, so they've always got to have intent. On the second level, when he gets through a little gap or whatever and he hits somebody, it's because he wanted to and he likes it because he's just a mean dude. I mean, honestly, there's not much I can't really say about Ryan Kelly. Like, he's a pretty clean prospect.
Are you watching all this from the one game on Draft Breakdown was the national championship game, right?
Yeah,
just
and
the one versus Clemson.
And I've seen a bunch of other games. You just search
Alabama offense.
Yeah, you just search Alabama offense. He's been the starter for game. He's been the starter for 3 years. So I mean, well, he's missed 7 games. He missed 4. I'm trying to remember. He missed 4 games in 2013. He missed 2 games in 2014, and he missed 1 game in 2015. So I mean, maybe durability is not. I wouldn't say necessarily a concern. Guys get hurt. It just happens. But the injuries weren't massive. They weren't really. I think one was an MCL sprain, which is just a sprain, so it's not like he tore it or anything.
Which happens a lot in the offensive line.
Yeah.
So I mean, not really an issue there. I mean, really, honestly, like I really struggle to find. Really weaknesses in his game. He was responsible for a lot of those really big lanes that you saw for Derrick Henry. I mean, it was a lot of him because they moved him to that second level. They expected him to be that guy sealing that second level block for him. And with Derrick Henry, the way he ran, if he didn't have that second level block, he's not doing much. Like, I really like Derrick Henry. Once he sees a hole, he's going to hit it. And he's going to hit it hard, and he's very successful when he finds the hole. But having Ryan Kelly was a big part of that, because he really sealed up that second level, really sealed up a lot of those blocks that gave Derrick Henry his Heisman Trophy. So run blocking, he's phenomenal. Pass blocking, they do a little bit of passing at Alabama too.
A little bit.
Just a little
Not
bit.
much.
But really don't see. I mean, he anchors very well. His feet are very. He's very quick. Like his back pedal when he's moving, just a little bit back, is still allows him to be on the balls of his feet so he can drive forward and engage when he needs to. I really like Ryan Kelly. There's not really much there to not like. And again, pick 18. I'm all over it. I'm okay with it. I think it's going to really help solidify the offensive line, and we don't want to miss out on him. I mean, honestly, look, we're not going to look at team success here, but Travis Frederick was former number 18 pick a few years ago. Really surprised everyone when the Cowboys taken him. He's probably been the best center in football since then. Mm-hmm. It helps. Once you got a good one, you've got a good one, and I think Ryan Kelly's a good one.
Yeah, I want to bring up, I know we weren't supposed to talk about Jack Allen, but I accidentally watched him, but he's short. I think 6'2", 296 was his listing, and he doesn't anchor. I don't think he's as strong as the other two guys that we mentioned. But you want to talk about second level and footwork. Jack Allen has elite center footwork, as a pulling guy. That's why I brought up before we were talking on the podcast about a center becoming a guard, because Jack Allen would be a great pulling guard. In the 2 games I watched of him, and one of those was 18 minutes long, so it's technically 3 full games. But
yeah.
He him pulling, I don't know if he lost a single battle. He just knew where he was going, and he got there as quick as he could, and he finished. You wouldn't think about a guy like him having a mean streak, but just the way he pulled and how fast he got there, I thought it was amazing. So I don't see him as a round one guy, obviously. I still have to watch Kelly, but right now I like him better than Martin. I don't know. He's a little short, doesn't have the biggest punch, but when he's on the move, he's insane. And maybe you want to have a different guy for this athletic offense with Good on the outside and with Costanzo on the outside, but if you have those guys plus
Mihort,
whatever his name is now, we're just pulling traps like we saw in the beginning of the season when Frank Gore was running traps and counters, that worked, and you put another elite guy in there like Jack, I think it would be great.
Yeah, no, I agree, and again, with Gore the way he is, I think we're gonna sign him again, so I think he'll be here for next season, and if we can get just a few bigger lanes, it'll be pro, because he's still got it in him. I think it'll be, I think that'll be a very productive season for him, and whoever else, Tyler Varga maybe, got to get the weekly Varga mention in, but we'll see. But yeah, no, I like Jack Allen too. Honestly, like I said, Ryan Kelly is my number 1, Nick Martin's my number 2, Jack Allen's my number 3 guard, and those are honestly the rounds I'd take him in. If I would take, I know you like Jack Allen, but I would take him in the 3rd. I'd take Nick in the 2nd, and Kelly in the 1st. So if people are worried about it, I really feel like they don't need to be as worried as they should. We're gonna find an offensive lineman in this draft. It's just gonna happen, and there are actually quite a few good ones. And the center class is very deep, so we'll be good. So, well, we've been jabbering on now for a while, so we'll wrap it up. So, Brent, thanks for coming on, man. You're welcome every time now that you're part of the crew. I know you got another podcast.
Yeah, I do.
So
I do. Totally not Colts related, but
what's it about? What's it about?
So the Pop Nerdery podcast is all about different pop culture media, so movies, TV, music, as well as the 2 other guys on the podcast are very into comics. I can't claim that I am as much, but yeah, totally different space than Colts Twitter typically lives in. But yeah. Hey. Yeah, Pop Nerdery.
Hey, that's cool, man. Hey, I'll put a link into on the website somewhere.
Love it. Appreciate that.
Yeah, no, hey, man. You get to everyone we bring on. I like them to brag on themselves a little bit, but so
yeah. And if I may, I just had a couple other things on Kelly that maybe you didn't touch on. I'm curious to get your
sure,
take.
I gotta go. So,
but yeah, I know Brian, you gotta take off. So
we'll see, Brian.
So it's funny you mentioned talking about Kelly immediately getting out in space and in that second level, and I had all the exact same types of things. He gets out into space with purpose, and he knows where defenders are. It's not like he just goes out into space and then finds a guy. He goes out in space taking the direct angle that a guy might be coming into the play, which is fantastic. But the one thing that I noticed is he makes a second effort a lot of times, which is great. But I don't know how often you can do that in the NFL.
Right.
You know, it's almost like in the NFL, the first move you don't have a chance to really counter. But I did like that because it just shows to me that he stays engaged with the play for that much longer. And then I did notice that whether it's out in space or sometimes at the line, because of the angles he takes, he gets a little handsy. And because he has such long arms, that sometimes that might change exactly, you know, how a ref is maybe viewing that play or something. So again, something in the NFL maybe that might affect more than NCAA. But
yeah, actually, that's a pretty good point. He was called quite a bit for holding.
There you go.
He just was.
So, yeah, I think that was it. Great anchor in general by Kelly, which I appreciated. And if it were me, I'm kind of your same mindset of the ranking in the different rounds. I do just like the idea of Allen in the third instead of investing a first or second on a center. But if we can draft the next Alex Mack and he's not available in free agency, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I mean, like Garrett was saying, it's been far too long. We need to do something about it. And I've been preaching a lot. Defense. Defense is important, but I can't say that I've never discounted drafting offensive line. Little preview for my piece coming in a couple of days. I really, really like Taylor Decker, and if Taylor Decker happened to be the pick at 18, I think we're getting a really, really good athletic offensive lineman, which would really benefit our team in multiple ways. But again, diminishing returns. We've already got two people who can play right tackle.
Right.
Adding a third seems a little bit redundant unless they plan on moving someone permanently to guard.
Somewhere. Yeah. And you and I talked a little bit on Twitter the other day. Just it seems like a lot in the draft community value Conklin over Decker, but I'm totally in your camp that Decker's the better player. I think I even talked to you about I just view Conklin almost strictly as a right guard. Or a right tackle, excuse me, because of kind of his heavy feet and stuff, whereas Decker, I think, has a little bit more versatility.
No, I agree. I mean, Decker could start left tackle for maybe half the teams in the league, and if he's our right tackle, my God, he's so good. I'll be putting out the piece in a couple of days, but I mean, his technique is almost flawless, and if he tests well. Again, he might not be there at 18 because I mean he's phenomenal in my opinion.
Right.
He's very, very good, and from what I could tell, I'm not big on the whole character stuff and looking at people's past or whatever. But sometimes you look into some guys because just to see what people say about him. Because honestly, you put on the tape Taylor Decker, he's a mean dude. I mean, he pushed people around. Which is cool. I like it. That's what you want to see. But
sure.
But at the same time, sometimes that can be viewed unfavorably, especially if you've got character concerns. Like Richie Incognito, one of the best guards in the NFL last year.
Right.
He really was. He's an asshole for lack of a better word, and he got kicked off the team for it. But I mean, he's a good player, so he prevails, right? That's the mantra of the NFL. If you're a good player,
can you play? Yep.
Can you play? And so, I mean, Taylor Decker, he seems like he's a community guy. So, I mean, there's a lot of those horseshoe qualities that I know that Grigson and Pagano really look for in him. So we'll get into that, but something's got to be done, something somewhere, and we'll get it. I think this year we'll get a center. I think you just have to, just based on how many there really are. There's really quite a few. I mean, even if it's a 6th round guy. Like Austin Blythe or I'm trying to remember the guy's name the Harvard guy, Cole Toner. People talk about people could talk about him.
He plays tackle, but they're projecting him at center, right?
He's a center, in my opinion, just from watching him. He moves. You want him to fight in a phone booth, centers. I didn't get to this. You want them to be able to fight in a phone booth. He fights in a phone booth really well, but if you're going to ask him to protect an edge, he's not going to do it. So you know what I mean? And that's just my opinion. Other
plus
people.
Harvard, intelligence being the number one quality of a center. It's a Harvard guy. I'm okay with him being tasked with protections and things for sure.
No, I agree. And we've talked. I don't know if we've talked about it on the podcast before, but it just makes sense that where a GM has been before is a good indicator of where they'll go in their future. Zach Hodges.
Yeah.
He's been to Harvard. He knows, he's seen Harvard tape. So you never know. Cole Toner is his name. He's a center. In my opinion, you'll find him tackle games on Draft Breakdown if you're looking for him. But I really feel like he's more of an interior player. But anyways, so I'm glad you got to come on, man. And again, we'll be glad to have you on. And next week we're going to be talking with Jake Arthur from Pro Football Spot about the combine, and then we'll just keep doing more stuff as we go on.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me. Excited to contribute to the site, and certainly not the film guru that you are, Grant, but I appreciate you letting me come on and join you.
Hey, man. Everybody's welcome. And thanks, everybody, for listening, and we'll see you next week.